This creature defies logic. How did Hallucigenia truly move?
How did Hallucigenia truly move?
A welcome to the Cambrian explosion, life's initial burst.
Life's initial burst.
And among these oddities lies Hallucigenia, a genuine enigma. Its discovery presented immediate, fundamental questions about orientation. For decades, scientists debated which side was truly up. And the first interpretation looked like a bizarre, walking pin cushion. But this perspective placed the long, pointed spines underneath. The stubby tentacles, meant for walking, were positioned above. But it seemed entirely ill-equipped for benthic life in that orientation. Now that we understand the initial theory, let's explore the evidence for reversal. The key evidence came from microscopic study of the fossil preservation. Researchers noticed structures at the base of the spines. But these traces strongly suggested they anchored to the upper surface. Conversely, the tiny, fleshy legs seemed better suited for the seafloor. The feeding apparatus, the presumed mouth, also pointed downwards. Of this new consensus flipped the creature entirely, spine side up. In this correct orientation, the 7 pairs of spines are now defensive projections. But these spines were not soft tissue, they were rigid, sclerotized rods. The ventral side, resting on the sediment, hosted the walking structures. The mouth cavity, now facing down, suggests scraping food from surfaces. This reinterpretation solved the orientation puzzle, but introduced new dilemmas. And the walking appendages are highly unusual for any known related animal group. They do not resemble the jointed limbs of arthropods or velvet worms. A movement appears slow, almost creeping, across the sediment. Its movement signature suggests a highly specialized, perhaps unique, gait. The relationship between the spines and the legs remains mechanically unclear. Fossil preservation itself contributes to the persistent ambiguity. A sedimentary compression can distort, flattening creatures in ways we misinterpret. Did the spines offer hydrodynamic lift, or were they purely defensive? Given the Cambrian dangers, defense was paramount for small life forms. When threatened, the Hallucigenia would likely retract or stiffen its protective layer. The uniformity of these spikes suggests a singular, consistent function. The dichotomy between defense and motility is central to its mystery. Could the legs also be used for maneuvering, perhaps gripping rock surfaces? These tips likely possessed small sticky pads or specialized cells. The environment itself was dynamic, with shifting currents and sediment flows. A creature this slow needed excellent anchorage to avoid being swept away. And now that we understand locomotion, Let's look closer at feeding. The mouth structure is interpreted as a tube or simple orifice for suction. It likely grazed on microbial mats or detritus settled on surfaces. But the body itself appears relatively soft, contrasting sharply with its spines. This soft trunk likely housed the digestive and reproductive organs. The strength needed to support those rigid spines suggests strong internal musculature. This creature represents a completely distinct evolutionary experiment from that era. It shares traits with several phyla, but belongs definitively to none. Its lineage hints at the ancestors of modern velvet worms and possibly arthropods. But each segment appears to support one pair of legs and one pair of spines. The mouth area itself is complex, suggesting internal muscular control. It is the ultimate biological compromise: heavy armor above, delicate movement below. The bilateral symmetry, though unusual, proves its fundamental body plan. Discoveries like this reshape our timeline of evolutionary innovation. A Hallucigenia shows how many paths life explored briefly during this time. We learned that the initial interpretation was entirely inverted. Its movement suggests a life spent carefully navigating complex terrain. Resting involved settling its soft underside securely onto the substrate. This bizarre organism continues to challenge our assumptions about ancient locomotion. The key to understanding this animal was respecting the integrity of the spines. It possessed a distinct anterior end for feeding and a trailing posterior end. The consensus now firmly places the sharp defenses pointing toward the open water. But Hallucigenia reminds us that nature's earliest designs were wonderfully, bafflingly strange.